What's up, guys? Welcome back to Fix Labs. My name is Fios, and want to appreciate you for coming back to the channel. And this video is really because people actually have asked me to do this second part of this money manager application, and it's quite take a lot of time for me to get to doing it because of other things that actually come in way. Without wasting much time, right, guys? If this is your first time to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe. And if it's not your first time and you're wondering why I've not really posted another videos, because it really takes time to actually create these videos, and because YouTube will actually show that a lot of people that watch our videos don't really subscribe. So there's a motivation that we're actually looking out for us to keep committing this time to actually keep creating content like this, because it actually takes a lot of time. And that's why we've not really posted for a lot of time, and then other things actually come in between. But I promise I should be able to do more. I promise. All right, so if you check out the video, you already know that this is what we did the last time, and we created this video where we worked on this screen and also this last part of the screen. But I've gotten kind of response that I should make this one. All right, so this particular one, if you are seeing my screen right now, you can see the middle screen, which has these very charts, and then you have these kind of custom selectors where you can toggle the expenses by day, week, month. And then you can also filter transactions by all food, shopping, based on kind of the category that the particular expense transaction actually fall into. And it's actually a very popular way of structuring UIs at work, whether you're working on the job, you're actually working for a client, whether you're a freelancer at Upwork or anywhere you are freelancing. This is a very key thing that you need to understand how to build stuff like this. Actually, because I'm going to be building a custom selector for these, and this is one of the key takeaways that you're going to get out of this project. I also want to point out that we're not going to be making this particular stuff customly, I should say. When I say custom, I mean we're not going to actually get exact look of this very chart, because from what I can see, this can be achieved in Flutter if you're using custom painter, where you have to do kind of maths. But those maths actually has to be based on the data, so that's why we don't really have, we can't just copy these just for UI sake, right? But we're going to be doing something that looks more real. We're going to be using a package. You find a package in the description. It's actually a Bezier chart that actually find that link on the description. You can get that on PubSpec and add it to your PubSpec.yaml file, and that's just all you need. And then we can go ahead and dissect this. So I've done a kind of POC just for you to see how we're going to be progressing on the tutorial. It's just going to be a very, very quick one. I'm not sure it's going to take a lot of time, because we've done this particular tile on the previous video. So we're going to just be focusing on creating this custom selector and also creating this particular widget that will hold our charts. Every other thing is what we have. We already have some in the last video. We have some kind of transaction list of transactions. So we're going to just refactor that transaction afterwards to accommodate the kind of view we want to render on this one. So without wasting more time, let me show you what I have on the POC. You can see on the device, on the simulator right here, you should bear with me. So you can see that we have this very information here, 370 expense, and then you can see that we also filter this by payment. You can also filter this by shoes. All right, you can also filter this by bags. So that's basically what we actually going to be doing. You can also toggle by day. There's no data in the week. There's no data yet. But if you switch to the month to the monthly view, you would see that we have this particular information right here. So that's what we're going to be doing on this particular tutorial. And without wasting much time, guys, we're going to just quickly get into it and start doing the code. I should make this again. If you're actually here for the first time, please don't forget to click on the subscribe button. We want to get this channel to 5,000 subscribers as fast as we can. That will give us enough motivation to keep making videos, because creating tutorials like this, which we have plans to actually creating Swift UIs, creating React natives, and creating other type of videos. But we need kind of motivation to be able to commit all this time to do that. So all those things, I also appreciate the people that actually subscribe already, that also keep asking me to make this video. You guys actually brought me back to the channel, and I want more people to subscribe so I can actually keep doing this. I appreciate you guys for all the love so far, and let's really get into the code. All right, so welcome back. I'm very much excited to get started. So from where we left last time, right? So we have these. So if you watch the last video, which I actually suggest that you do, so that you can actually get up to speed where we are right now. So we're going to continue from where we left off on that last project. So continue from where you left. So meaning that you already have this guy running in your device, right? So we're going to be working on this screen right now. So we've already done this screen, which is the profile. We've done the home, and then we're going to be doing this. So the first thing we're going to be doing, I already created an expense screen. This expense screen is going to actually hold this particular place. But before we start, we need to create the custom selector. The custom selector is what we need to be able to get these individual selectors active. So once we get the custom selector, we're going to be able to reuse it for all these other places. So first of all, let's switch to the project and go into our, I already have this expense screen, which is just like a stateless widget. We're going to actually convert this to stateful widget along the line. But first of all, let's go into the widget screen and let's make a new .dat file. And that file, we're going to call it custom selector, right? So we have custom selector like this. All right, so here we're going to now have, a stateful widget. So let's do that. All right, so we're going to add in some kind of const values. Just that's why you're actually seeing some of these stuff, but it's not a problem, right? As long as you don't have, I can't add const here because we're actually passing some values to it. So let's leave that for now. So we'll do for this guy. Okay, so that's all we need to do for this. Then we should now be able to add the item. All right, so because what we just did is just for the value, the decoration of that particular selector, right? So we need to add the value of this container or the child of the container. So let's do child. That's all we need for this particular UI, right? So if you check what we did, we created a custom selector widget, which will actually represent our selector in this very UI. So for us to be able to achieve that, we need to just apply some kind of get all the list of items we need, and then we'll map through it and then render this UI. You're going to see that in the next phase. So, but it seems I'm getting some errors somewhere. Let me see where that is coming from. I didn't close that constructor. All right, so that's what we have on this one. So in the next phase, we're going to be able to show this on the screen. We need to start getting it on the screen. But before we do that, we need to also create the next widget. The next widget we're going to be creating is just what is going to hold our Bezier chart. So before you proceed, just go to PubSpec. You see the link on the description. It's going to bring you to this particular one, Bezier Chart Plus. So Bezier Chart Plus is what we are going to be using. This other Bezier chart is also good, but since it's kind of it's not being maintained again, so that's why I probably use this new one. So if you grab that, you add it in the PubSpec. All right, and we have the Bezier chart. I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to put it on PubSpec. Make sure you'll be able to sync that, and then we're going to come back and create the custom widget that will actually hold this Bezier chart. So I'm going to see you on that phase, guys. All right, so if you've gone ahead to add the widget, so like I said, if you just go to the PubSpec and then add the Bezier chart plus, like I said, from here, right? You just copy the Bezier chart plus and then add it to your PubSpec and pull your PubSpec so that you can actually update. And once you do that, we are ready to go ahead and get into this particular expense screen. So the first thing that we need to do in the expense screen is that we need to, if you check out the UI, you're going to see that we have a title bar here. So let's go ahead and update that and also make it something that we can actually be able to start putting in data so that we can see how it looks. So to do that, let's wrap this guy with single child scroll view, right? So I'm going to take out this column. I'm going to do single child scroll view. All right, and then the child, let's paste back the column. this place, this is supposed to be a stateful widget. So let's see if we can convert that to stateful widget. That will help us to actually be able to control the state when we start updating the information. So within the states down here, we're going to make some kind of private fields. I'm going to tell you what those things are going to do. So we're going to do in selected index. Let's make this a time frame index, and it's going to default to 0. And then we're going to have another one, so probably let's make all of them private. This one is going to be for the transaction, the category down below. So we're going to have selected category index. It's going to be 0 for now. Then let's do the array. So we're going to do final selector labels. It's going to be a list of strings. We're going to have day, we're going to have week, I'm going to have month. And the other thing that we need is this is going to actually hold the particular active. Let's check out this. So it's going to hold the active index of this, so that we'll be able to display that this is active. So this is the first boolean. All right, the first index that you saw, the first int that we had is for this. All right, so the next one that you saw below was this for the categories. All right, so the next thing we need to also do is to hold the list of we need to have 2 lists of transactions. One will be the one that will fetch original one, will load out the screen, and then we're going to have another list of transactions that is going to hold the filter transaction. So that is actually what we're going to use to filter this information basically. So at first, when the information is loaded, we'll have all the list of transactions coming in, but when we start filtering, we're going to fall back to the filtered data. So, and also we need another list to hold this list of labels that will come from the list of transactions. So we already have the first list here. So let's go ahead and add all those variables. So first of all, let's do that will form all the stuff that we need to actually start building on top of that. But before we go ahead, let's go and make this other widget. I told you the widget is going to be the widget that will hold our chart. So let's go ahead and create a stateful widget, or here a stateless widget can actually do that. So let's make a stateless. We'll call that what will we call that? Call that expense chart, maybe expense chart widget. All right, so in the expense chart widget, we're going to go ahead and then copy this chart. I'm going to show you the chart we're going to copy, because the charts have different categories of charts. So you can see here we have different samples. There are charts that actually support weekly. So if you want to go ahead and make a support for this other widget, like I told you, we're going to just be making only for the month that is active. But if you want to support for the week, then you can actually modify those widgets to configure it for the week. And because they have different views that you can actually configure your charts to actually adapt. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the one that might fit into our stuff. We're going to be using the monthly one, so we're just going to grab these. Yeah, seems there's something missing here. Okay, let's take out const. So we'll go ahead and save, and I'm going to modify these to at least kind of a little bit of backdate or forward dating. I should call that 2023. I'm going to do June, that is 6. Let's probably leave it here, and then also to date, and then we're going to also change this guy to, instead of making it to come from this date to today, we want it to end at a particular date, which will be September of that month. So that will be June to September. So that will be what we'll have here. So let's just quickly see how that looks. We might need to actually make some kind of modifications again. So first of all, let's go to our UI and start fixing in the information. So before we actually do that, we need to find a way to actually plug in this data. So if you check out the UI, you're going to see that we have this information actually on top of the chart somehow. All right, so for us to do that, we're probably going to use stack in this case. So for us to lay that value inside, so let's make stack. So we'll probably use a column, and then we're going to rename it to stack. Children. Okay, rename to stack. And then the first child of the stack is going to be first of all, let's see if we put this particular widget and see what we can have before we can start making the customizations. Okay, so I'm going to save, and let's see what we have. Yeah, pretty, you can see that this is what we have here. It's just showing this value June, July, August, but we don't need the red, so we'll probably be doing a lot of customizations. I'm going to do that next. All right, so let's go ahead and customize. If you check out our reference file, you can actually find that we have these items in white background, and then we'll have probably this color of blue, and then we can have probably the strokes in red. So that's what we're going to do. So the widget, the package we're actually using has some kind of customizations that is provided alongside it, so you could actually go through that yourself. Yeah, if you go to the README, part, you would find some of the fields that are actually exposed. So the number one field that we want to look at is going to be here, right? So the background color is not going to be this, so it's probably not going to be a background color of white. So what we're going to do is probably to remove this background color entirely. You should default it to white. All right, so if I go ahead and save that, we're going to add this color. We're going to change the color, this vertical indicator color, because what we have here currently is black, so I want to make it slightly different, sort of blue gray. Blue gray. And what else? So let me make sure that my app is still running. Seems I need to rerun that again. So while that comes up, so I'm changing this guy to blue gray. That's the vertical color, show vertical indicator true. Vertical, I need to do, so I'm going to do x-axis. The x-axis is going to be this place. So x-axis test style. So then I'm going to do time to, sorry, I'm going to do style, sorry, but that style to be text style. I'm going to do color. I'm going to use the font color. We have this font. This font color in our const files. So I'm going to use that here. It's probably the font darker, the darker version of the font. So the next thing I need to do is to update position on tab. So I want it to have the position to be updated when you tap the chart, right? Update position on tab, set it to true. Okay. So for now, we're going to stick with this. So let's just wait for the app to start up, and then we can go ahead and test that. All right, so now our app is running. So let's quickly check up the, you can see that the color is changing now. So the next thing we need to change is the, all right, yeah, so this container should go. All right, so we're supposed to have the line color in the Bezier line. The Bezier line is supposed to have a line color. So let's plug line color, colors.red. Let's save. So you can see that we have that. All right. Probably just going to update this, the stroke to be 1 point. All right. Okay. What's the next thing that we need to touch up here? So we're going to make this guy to be expense. All right. So that's for this. So the next thing we're going to be doing is more of like, we need to be able to see a way to render these tabs that, like I said, in the UI. So the tabs should be able to render this tab, and we should only see this very chart displayed when we're on the month tab, right? So we don't want it to show by default. So, and then we can probably set up the height for this. All right, so let's see how we can get this guy. Before we can actually display it, we want to be able to render this guy, like I said, on top. So we want it to show only when this guy is actually active. And then for us to achieve this, so we probably need to have a row that will hold this very row, and then also be able to accommodate this this particular icon widget. So how do we do that? First of all, let's just create a helper function somewhere up here. this is supposed to be a list of items. So how do we do that? We could either do a row here. So we can actually do a row, and then we'll have a children here, and then we can actually log those information there. So let's take this guy. All right, so our label is going to be the item or the element, basically, which is going to be a string in this case, right? So we're going to close. So what we're trying to do is that we don't have the index that is passed here yet, so I need to get that index out. So how do we do this? We're going to just get an index equals to index of this will give us the index. So but I want to check where do we actually need that index. Yeah, we'll be needing it when we want to actually set the state down here. Do you understand? So that when we click on the index, when we click on an item, we're going to update the index to be the current selected index. So how are we going to do? We're just going to do our selected time index is going to actually be the index at this point, which is the index that we actually add. But for us to do that, we need to actually do a set state so that we can actually update our state. Sorry. Let's take this. I'll save now. Let's see if that appears on the screen. You can see that we have like 3 items here, so but they are not probably aligning well. That is what we'll fix. I'll have to fix that. Let me see. We can see at least that is responding. We can see week, this. Just that we need to actually make that. Let's go back to the selector and see if we missed out something. All these squiggly lines is probably because we're not adding some cost in different places. So it's kind of IntelliSense is forcing us to do that. So this text, if we wrap this text in center, that might probably give us. Okay, so you can see we have centered. So I'll come back to the selector. So I could probably make this 45. Let's see what we have. Okay. Now we seem to have this working, but something that is not working yet is the if you can guess that we're not getting the shadows, right? The shadows is not really showing up. So let's look at what the problem could be. So what you're doing that selected is equals to the selected item index is equal to the selected selector labels index of item, right? And we're actually getting this guy to show up on the month instead of on the week or days. But another thing that is not happening as we want is that we want this number of lower data to actually be on the center. So let's take a look at how to get that. So we'll go back to the active time frame and then so we need to wrap this chart on center widget. All right, so if you check out now, you can see that we have no data just as we want. So you can see we have that. No data for days, no data for weeks, no data for months. Sorry, for months we have this very information. So that's making sense. But something that is missing right now is the shadows. The shadow is not coming from the custom selector. So let's look at what we have in custom selector. So we're in the decoration for box shadows. We're doing widget that is selected. So if it's selected, we're returning the box shadow. All right, so yeah, there's plenty of things that we're actually not doing on the box shadow. If you can guess that. So I think we only have color in there. We need to have offset, which is going to be an offset, and the dx and dy of it. So we're going to do 0 and 8. And then we're going to do another thing of blur radius. Let's say about 15. We're going to do what next? I think this is enough. Let's save and see. So you can see we have a pop. So our item has actually popped out now. So if you check out what we have, it looks very cool right now, I guess. So I hate this streaky lines. I don't really know why that's happening. It doesn't really happen on the Mac. I just feel like this IDE is different. And then if you're wondering what the kind of IDE I'm using, I'm still using Android Studio, but I'm using a different version of Android Studio, which probably looks different from what you might have. Okay, const, it doesn't need const here. All right, so the next thing I need to add in the explain screen for this widget, if you're following me, you're gonna see that we need to add the calendar icon. So if you check out the UI, you can see that we have a calendar icon by the right. So let's quickly see if we can add that. We could actually spread it into this one. So let's see what we have. We can have a size box of width 16. And then we can try to add an icon. Then we can add an icons.calendar. Let's see. Actually, I could probably do the width between 4. Okay. So that's basically what we have for this, and I think the only thing we might probably do to this is probably to just make the height of this to be 40 if we think it's probably too big to match our blueprint. If you look at what we have here, it seems that this is more. Then we can also probably improve on the font size. So go to custom selector. We could update this custom select the font size of that item here, because we don't really have a font size. So we could do font size to be, say, 16. And that's much better, right? So I'm going to leave it at this. So the next thing we need to do, guys, is if you check out, we have probably too much space in between these various stuff. So let's improve on that. And then if you're wondering, we'll have this one is probably self-explanatory if you're not totally new to Flutter. This is just creating like random dates. All right, so we have date 1 is today's date, that subtract like 2 days from today's date, so it would be a little bit date backwards. Today's date does subtract 3, and then 35, 36, and all of that. So it's just for us to get arbitrary numbers, even though I didn't render. I've actually streamed off some of those numbers from here because I only made my stuff to be within this very few dates, and then within this place where we're actually rendering with the charts, you can see that this particular chart has, when it's plotting the Bezier line, it has some missing value. So for each time where it finds a missing value, if you find the documentation, this builder is only valid for Bezier line chart scale of date types. So it uses the double value returned by the function based on the current date time and receives a parameter. So for each time it doesn't find a value, it's just going to generate a random number. If the month is even, it returns 10. If the month is not even, it returns 5. So that's why you're probably going to find that some values here might really coincide with that. You have to play around with this date, or probably leave the date as it is from where you copied it, then before you can actually see all the date plugged out in this place. So that's something we can actually watch out later. So I'm going to divide this screen by 3 instead of 2 so that I can have a lesser space. Let's see. So you can see that this is gone up a bit, so and that's fine. That's fine with me. All right, so let's continue. What we can do right now is for us to be able to get this one, because it's going to come from the transactions, we need to update our transaction information, which is going to be the user data, right? So let's update that user data file. And I'm just going to make a refactor to these very items here so that we can have a different look. That will be, so I'm going to be using a named parameter here. So this will help us to actually identify these informations very clearly. So I'm going to be adding required. So with this, if we go back to our transaction, we're probably going to have different type of looks here. So we have shoe bag, shoes bag. How many transactions do we have? So we have only 2, which is, have 3 here, right? So payment, shoes, and all of that. So that's enough. And then we're going to go back to our transactions expense screen, and we are going to make another helper function. This helper function is going to actually pull up the data from the transactions. So we're going to construct like a transaction from the transaction that we have from the transaction file. So we're going to do that on the init state. So I'm going to call the init state. Do I have that already? So let me see if I have that init state. And inside the init state, I'm just going to create a little bit of wait time. So I'm going to do widget binding. So widget binding dot instance dot add post frame callback. So we just want just a little bit of time after the screen has rendered, so that it just pulls the data from the file and then constructs our transaction. So how do I do that? Remember, we'll have these transactions list. All right. So that transaction, we're going to pull all the transactions from the first and second transactions. So we're going to do transactions 1 and transactions 2. But we need to actually spread it here. So that's the only way that would actually work. So we use the spread operator just to pass the transactions inside this one. That would actually make the transaction to join itself, right? So they will become one single transaction list. Then I'm going to sort it so that it's going to probably remove duplicate, because there are possibilities of having duplicate labels, right? So that's where the set is going to help us to remove any duplicate, and then we're going to convert it back to list. Right. So at the end of the day, it's going to bring only a list of item category name, and that would actually become what will be in our category list, transaction categories. And that's the categories. Transaction category is actually what we need to go through as in the map through here and display down below, right? So if you remember, so I'm going to save, probably just do formatting. So we have categories here. So that being done, the next thing that we need to do is to call this function below. After we have gotten our transactions, we need to call it somewhere here. So because it's dependent on the transaction. So when our transaction have been loaded, so it calls this guy to actually set up the category items. We'll also be calling this guy somewhere else because we probably be needing to update. We need to also make another function probably that we're going to use to update the state when a filter has happened. So let's just make that function straight up. All the transactions that fall into that same category, and it's going to assign it back into our filter transaction, and our filter transaction is what we're going to use to actually do the rendering here. So without wasting extra time, let's just quickly go and first of all render this transaction list here. So just down below the transactions label here, we're going to add a size box just to give a little bit of space. I'm going to give you the height of 24 as well. Spacing is very nice. It's very necessary in UI designs, and that's what we're going to observe strictly, because if you should be able to get exactly what your designer presented to you, you should be able to do that. So let's put up here a row, and this row is going to have children. The children is also going to just be us spreading the filtered selected categories or categories. Let's find categories. What's the name again? Select categories. So let's check that. Let's check what we call that variable. The list of string transaction categories. Yeah. And what did we assign? We have already assigned this transactions category. Seems there's a typo here, so I'm going to correct that. Transactions category. So let's correct that typo. So down below, where we have a row, I'm going to spread transaction categories. I'm going to map through it. I'm going to pick a single transaction, but because this guy is nullable, we're going to make that nullable. So I'm going to do this to be a transaction. I'm going to return our custom selector, but let's use curly braces here. So I'm going to return custom selector. A custom selector is going to take, as usual, a function. So since, let me check out this and see if there's an error. I'm going to restart. Let's go to the tab. So you can see that we have shoe bag payment, but we've not really observed the on tab. So that's why you're not seeing anything happening on tab. So that on tab is what we're going to implement and then be able to render the displays of the items here. But you can see that we've been able to pull all the data, shoes, bag categories, shoes, bag, and payment, because they're all coming from the. But if you check our data, you could see that this data has more than, we have like shoes, payment, right? So, and then we'll have shoes, bag. So this is 5 items. So if we're not using the set, like I said, we'll probably have more than that. So that's the essence of us using that. So the custom selector, let me quickly just add a height to it. I'm going to have a height of 45. Yeah, so I'm going to do the rendering of these items and on click. And let's quickly just add on click here. So I'm going to do a set state of selected category index is equals to the index that we actually have above. All right, so that that would make our selector to work, right? You can see that this is looking very nice. All right, then we also have this data here. So if you check our sample design, so we're actually making progress. So guys, we're going to be doing the next thing there, which is getting the list of payments to actually be filtered based on the store that is clicked. And we've actually written the function that should do that for us. So just for us to plug that in, and let's see how that's going to. So right now, let's quickly get the UI up. All right, so just below these rows, we're going to add a size box. So this size box is going to have a height of about 24. I'm going to save. Let's see if we have that. So guys, that worked. All right, so you can see that we have the 5 items, but let's see if we have this update. But it's not updating now because we are not observing the on tap. Probably is not being updated. So we're supposed to be calling a function that does the update when somebody actually taps the item, right? So first of all, on top of those category items, let's yeah, we're already updating the index. So first of all, we need to probably clear the original data in the transaction, the filter transaction. So let's filter transactions clear, and then let's update that transaction with the current item, which is the label at this point, right? So the goal is that once you tap this item, we grab the item that you tapped, then we can use that to update this very information. So let's see if this works. So you can see under category of bag, we have only one bag. Under payments, we have one payment. Under shoes, we have about 3 shoes. So the only thing that we need to observe here is to add a little bit of padding to our overall parent widget so that we can actually have a little bit of space. So if you go to the parent, I'm just going to take out this unused import. If you go down to the scaffold, just right by the body, yeah, something is wrong here. So let me see what. Okay, sorry, maybe I deleted the wrong thing. Okay, just within the single child scroll, we probably will just need to wrap it with a padding. All right, so we'll wrap this column with a padding, wrap with a padding dot all, and we're going to use the default spacing that we have in our constant file. Default spacing. I'm going to save and then we're going to check it out. So guys, this is looking like 8. All right, so you can see payment, bag, shoes, and you can see how that looks. We'll have months, week, no data. There's data here, the bag, this. So guys, that's just how we actually get it done. So if you go through the code, you will understand that we were actually trying to make this exactly to mimic what we have here. So if you see this is shopping, and then you could say because this is a design, actually you might not really be able to confirm the sync with the active data, but at least for our case, because we actually want to simulate exactly what is going on, you can see that we're actually being able to filter that. And that's because we are filtering that information based on the transactions that were actually selected. So when you select a particular item, we take this item, we pass it to that function. That function is going to re-render our list. That list is going to call setState so that we can actually update this very information. So guys, if you like what we did, don't forget to like the video, leave a comment. Let me see if there's something that I missed or something you did not get well in the explanations that we actually did. So like I said, this is actually a chart. You can actually go through it. I was mentioning something about the fields that is exposed in this chart, because the chart can actually be customized beyond what we just did, right? So it depends on what you're working on. So if you're working on some stuff that has multiple type of data, as you can see in one of those examples, you can actually render multiple data points in one chart. So stuff like that, but those data has to be kind of in sync, unlike what we just did in this, which is probably because we are just doing a UI thing. All right, so that's all we did here. You can see this is actually rendering multiple information, and then it has multiple labels. All right, so but ours, we're just trying to conform with what we have here by having a single kind of spline with some kind of data point. All right, so that's all we have to do for this video, and I hope this video, even though it's not that long or complex, like we've actually had some stuff done, but the most important thing I need you to take away is being able to get this kind of custom selectors based on the type of data you're actually looking at for. If you remember what from our transactions, we pulled our transactions from the transaction list up until here, where we pulled all the transactions and joined them together, and then we called get categories from those transactions. All right, and we updated our transactions because this get categories, we actually need it for us to be able to filter all these keys. So we take all the category name and then we filter that and use that actually to construct okay, this is what we're using to update this information. So when I click here, I'm passing the shoes to this guy, and it will filter my transactions where it matches the category of shoes, the bag, the same thing, the payment, the same thing. So but for these categories, we're actually sorting all these lists and removing any duplicates conditions, because if you check this situation, this is where we'll probably have a duplicate. So we would have had like 2 shoes here, but because we are calling to set will actually remove any duplicate and then give us just single unique values here. And that's what we did by getting all the categories from our transactions. This is a very useful use case. You can actually use this in real application you're working for a client, or even on the job. So this is actually a very good use case. Just that in the real job, you might probably not be using set states. You probably have to do this off the UI. The videos that I'm going to be doing next probably is going to have some state management, where we'll actually take out all those kind of implementations into our controller and call those controllers inside our UI, because it's not a good practice to actually handle business logic inside your UI. So, but because we're doing UI and we just want to have something that probably makes sense, and that's why we're doing everything here, because we needed set state. We actually cannot call set state outside of a stateful widget. But if we're using something like stateful, we're using like a state management, we can always update our states from the outside and then reference them from our UI point. So guys, if you like what we did, please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because I'm going to be uploading these other videos like this one. It took a long time for me to make these videos because I actually needed motivation. Like I said, it takes time to actually create these videos, and because it's a tutorial, I really need to make sure that you can be able to explain and make sure that people can actually get what you're trying to like explain. So that's why it takes a lot of time for us to get it out. So to encourage what we're doing, please don't forget to subscribe, share the video, like, comment, and that actually liking the video makes it possible for YouTube to suggest the video to someone else, so that it can get more visibility, and that in turn helps us to actually create more videos like this. Thank you so much for staying up till now, and I'm going to see you on the next one. Cheers.